Hello and welcome to your daily mobile games sizzle with me, Jon Jordan. Today we're looking at Glu Mobile's financial figures. So it's released its numbers for the 3 months ending 31st of March 2017. So that's its Q1 financial year 17. So there's good news and there's bad news, which in a sense is good because previously for Glu there's just been a lot of bad news, but this time there is good news as well. Then we have a graph in front of us which will kind of show what's going on. So if you look at the sales numbers, which are the numbers above the line pretty much, we have GAAP revenue. So GAAP revenue is the blue column. GAAP revenue is the accepted accounting practice in the US for how you book your revenue, and that was, we can see, up. So that was $56.8 million of GAAP revenue in the quarter, up 4% year on year. And we can also see as another kind of measure of sales, which is bookings. That's the yellow line. So bookings is actually the money Glu took during that quarter, but because of the accounting practices, it can't book all that money in one quarter. It has to defer some of it. So depending on the game type, it has to defer it up to sometimes over 90 days. So you have this difference. You have bookings and GAAP revenue, and the difference is called deferred revenue. But we can see from bookings were up much more strongly. So in fact, Glu had predicted it might make bookings of between $53 and $55 million. Actually, bookings came in at $69 million, so a very large increase there. And actually, that was up 28% year on year. So very good in terms of the sales numbers. That's the good news. So the bad news, we look below the line. We shouldn't have to always look below the line because we're looking at the red column now, and that's GAAP profit and loss. So if Glu was profitable, that red column would be above the line. We can see in the past it has been mildly profitable, but we can see from the red lines beneath the graph at the moment we're well into negative territory and have been for the last financial year. And we were back there again during this quarter. So Glu made a fairly substantial loss of $22.8 million. So that's kind of a problem, because if your sales are going up and your losses are also going up, that doesn't seem very sustainable. So kind of to moderate that loss, part of it is because Glu has signed in the past some minimum guarantees for its celebrity games. Those celebrity games have, in the most part, failed. So Glu is effectively paying back kind of royalty money on games that it's not going to make any money off of. So that's been a real drag over the last financial year. And so even though it made this loss of almost $23 million, about $14 million of that was paying these minimum royalty guarantees, and actually it still has about $12 million to pay, so it's still going to be a drag on Glu's profitability for some time to come. There we go. We can see though, definitely the good news for Glu is that sales are up, and that gives it a platform to hopefully not make so many losses in the future. So this graph looks complicated, but what we're going to do is take a fairly deep delve into Glu's product lines, and we can see where this increase in sales has happened. So we've got the last 5 quarters here. So we've got 2016 and the new quarter going on there. So at the bottom of those stacked columns, we have grey. So that's just others. So Glu has a lot of games in the app stores, over 100 games, kind of a lot of legacy games, not really supported very well, but have kind of what we might think of as long tail revenue. We see in decline. Those games are going to decline now. In terms of more important games, we have in red Kim Kardashian Hollywood. So that's Glu's biggest game today, over $200 million worth of revenue. Again, we can see that it is in decline, although for the last quarter actually it plateaued. So it did about just under $7 million of bookings in the quarter, which is the same as the previous quarter. So one of Glu's big strategies now is to stop or even reverse the decline of those type of games, because obviously if you have a lot of games that are losing money all the time, it's very hard for new games to come in and fill that gap all the time. So that's actually the kind of the foundation of Glu's turnaround strategy, is to stop the decline of these games. So that's working with Kim Kardashian. Above that we have a kind of in lighter pink, we have Kendall and Kylie. So that's a Kardashian spin-off game, another celebrity-based game. We can see launched really well a year ago, but that's now in pretty much terminal decline. That's did about $1 million of bookings. So I don't think there's a lot they can do with that really, and now it's so small it doesn't really matter. Cooking Dash is next one up in green. So Cooking Dash has done very well again. It's not the most social game. It's not the it's quite a single player type game, so quite hard to monetize in the long term really, apart from putting out more content. So it is in decline, but again, quarter on quarter it's done pretty well, it's been stabilized. And then in the lighter green is Gordon Ramsay Dash, so obviously that's a celebrity version of Cooking Dash. Launched super well, and actually again was a game quarter on quarter that actually did pretty well. Didn't decline, and I think there's some sort of potential there to keep for even kind of increasing the revenue on that quarter on quarter. Obviously, with a celebrity licensed game, Glu is sharing some of the profitability there, so that is a game where they have to pay royalties on, so not quite so profitable. Okay, the next ones we can see are in blue for more male games. Sorry for this stereotypes. So we have Deer Hunter. So Deer Hunter is a hunting game. It's done very well for Glu over the years. Was in quite a lot of decline until 6 months ago. They put some kind of new teams on that and did some kind of heavy updates. And actually, it was a kind of good success story. So actually grew quarter on quarter. Partly they did an update with underwater hunting for the first time that really seemed to engage the audience. So that was actually increased its revenue by $1.5 million in the quarter. So that was a nice uptick. And then in darker blue is baseball. So Glu last year released Tap Sport Baseball 2016 and did I think surprisingly well for them. So it's done about $34 billion of bookings. But is now kind of, it looks like it's in terminal decline, but there is that's because basically Glu's closed it down for the new baseball season. So baseball season in the US at the moment, they have a new game which is actually now a licensed game. So it's the Major League Baseball Tap Sports Baseball 2017. So that's launched pretty well at the moment. It's hard to say at the moment if it's going to do significantly better than the previous year. It will do better, but hard to say exactly how much. And again, there is a license involved, so there's this kind of issue about how much profitability Glu makes off every dollar it makes from that game. But probably in terms of like bookings, baseball will be up year on year for Glu. So if that was just Glu's portfolio, as we could see, it would have a quite significant decline. But there are two other games that have really impacted Glu's financials. So they are Covert Fashion and Design Home. So they came around with from the acquisition of a US developer called CrowdStar at the November last year, 2016. So we can see they first appear obviously in that quarter. So it's a bit complicated because they were only around for about 2 months of the 3-month quarter. So we have to kind of upgrade the kind of on guidance on those ones. But Covert Fashion did about $8 million of bookings in that 2-month period last year, and Design Home did about $4 million of bookings during that period. And we can see for the entire quarter, so for the first time, this Q1 period has a full quarter from both those products. And Covert Fashion did about just under $12 million. So potentially it did about the same, maybe a small decline. But the big impact is Design Home. So Design Home did $14.9 million of bookings in the quarter, a very substantial increase, and one that Glu appeared to be a little bit surprised about, which is perhaps why its guidance was blown out of the water. They think Design Home is a product that has Kim Kardashian potential, really, and that's really now for the rest of the year where Glu Mobile is really looking to extend, to leverage what it thinks is a magical opportunity with Design Home. So Glu is so excited about the opportunity from Design Home that it's actually upgraded its guidance for the year. So at the start of the year, it thought bookings would be about $215 million to about $225 million, which is roughly the same as it had been in 2016. Now it's upgraded that to $280 to $290 million, so a very substantial upgrade, and probably behind the scenes hopes it might get over $300 million. You obviously want to beat your guidance. So the reason it's done that is not only Design Home has done very well in this quarter, and the kind of legacy games are stabilized, but it really wants to invest heavily in design home kind of growth over the next 2 quarters, particularly getting a lot more people playing the game. So it really believes it has a kind of a money-making machine, that it just has to get people playing, and it will then get rewards, not just for the next quarters, but for the next year. And how it's going to do this is it's going to invest heavily in advertising. So Glu traditionally hasn't done very much marketing or advertising around its games, or as we call it, user acquisition. So that's the UA spend there, and we can see that from this graph. So this graph looks at how much money Glu spent in marketing over the last 3 years. So give and take, it spends about 16% of revenue on advertising, which is fairly low from industry standards. I mean, some companies will spend 30% of their revenue on advertising. And the interesting thing is, the more successful your games are, the more profitable you are, and the more money you spend on marketing. So that's kind of this interesting situation that Glu now finds itself in, a bit different to previous situations. And we can actually see that Glu reckons it's going to spend probably well over 20% of revenue on marketing this year, and we can see that in the slightly light blue columns. That's a prediction. That's what it plans. It plans to spend about $80 million of money in UA spend on advertising, particularly for design home. Now, obviously, there are risks associated with this, but they may not be the risks that you think. So Glu's not going to waste this money. The user acquisition technology is now fairly advanced, so companies have a very good idea of where they're spending, who's downloading the games, and then are they spending any money in the game. There's not really an issue that Glu's going to waste that money and not have anything with it, get anything from it. It's not like traditional marketing where you might put some billboards, do some TV marketing, that kind of stuff. The issue for Glu might be that it just can't find enough good quality users, people who are prepared to actually spend all the money it wants to spend. It may have kind of a supply problem in terms of finding the people it needs to find to spend all that money. If it can spend that money, I think that unless something disastrous happens on its user acquisition technology, it's going to make the money back. And the money, we should point out, doesn't come back in straight in the quarter. I mean, Glu's saying it's investing this for this year and next year. So we can see with these games, once you get them to a high level, they can sustain strong quarterly revenues for years. I mean, Kim Kardashian is almost coming up to 3 years now and still generating $7-8 million a quarter. Not significant now, but it's still money that Glu's not doing a lot of marketing on that. So Glu sees the opportunity now, get design home, really spend a lot of money, get people talking about it, get people playing it, and then you have them as players for years. So an interesting challenge for Glu, a bit of a change there. It's got its foundation level. It's got to stop its legacy games, or its evergreen games as it likes to call them. It's got to stop them declining. It's got to plateau their sales to give it a strong foundation, and then got the baseball game as well this year. So the next quarter will be the first time we see how the sales of the new Major League Baseball licensed baseball game will do. That's doing, say, pretty well so far, so we expect that to be pretty solid. And then combined with design home, which Glu is very much expecting to see growth on, and also the fashion game as well. That is quite a strong revenue driver at the moment. That should be Q2 done nicely. I guess the other interesting thing, looking further off in the year, is the last of Glu's celebrity games, Taylor Swift branded game. We don't know anything about it yet. They've been very quiet. They said they're going to talk a lot more about it in the next quarter. I think, again, behind the scenes, they are quite happy with the way it's going. I think they've not assumed it's going to make a lot of money, and obviously, again, there's a whole licensing issue. There's a royalty issue based on the profitability of that game. So I think that's why they're being conservative about it. But again, that's something else to look out for. So that's why everyone is kind of quite not quite sure. We'll say bullish is exactly the right word to use for Glu, but everyone's definitely, the good news is overwhelming the bad news. But we should still point out, Glu is a loss-making company, has been loss-making for a long period of time, and is still quite heavily loss-making, and will probably continue to be loss-making no matter what its sales do for the next few quarters. And really, for a company to be sustainable, it can't be loss-making Glu doesn't have an enormous amount of cash. It hopes to end the year with about $60 million of cash, but it has to be a bit careful about that in the long term as well. So anyway, but let the good news prevail for the time being. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Hi, and thanks for watching right to the end of the video. We always like to see your comments, so please put them in the comments section below. And don't forget to subscribe. And check out some more of our other videos about the mobile games industry. There's 2 really good examples on your screen right now.